come here to support Dave. My name is Gwen Burstein, and I'm one of the many proud friends of Dave Armstrong. This has been a great success. Let's just give him a little Dave, as one of your readers, I have to say thank you to you, the brothers Finnegan, for creating such lovable characters. When I read that book, I am laughing with them, I'm worrying about them, and I cheer them on through every adventure. I am thrilled to know that book 2 is on its way. You might catch me reading in the kitchen. Okay, so thanks to everybody for coming this evening. I think that we are here to celebrate the success of book 1 and find out what happens in book 2. So we are having Dave, with a few of his close friends, are going to remind us what's happened in book 1, and then he's going to read to us from book 2. I have the honor of getting this wonderful evening started. I'd like you to give a round of applause for our very own Mr. Dave Armstrong, the Claire's Home Treasure.
Thanks, Gwen. I have never been called a treasure before.
Well, you are.
And I'm wondering about all that laughter that is greeting that term. First of all, before I get started, I just want to say to everyone here, on behalf of my brother and myself, thank you so much for what you did for the first book. It went beyond our wildest dreams. I think I started off, I ordered 500 copies. Since then, I have reordered up to 1,500 copies, and it's still going. And that none of that would have happened if it wasn't for Claire's Home. And as I said in the beginning of that book, the kids of Claire's Home, and some of those kids are now in their 40s, pushing 50. And so it's a long time, but all of you guys factored into making that book a success and keeping it alive. And now here we have book 2, and I'm pretty thrilled. I think it's not going to let you down. That's what people are telling me that I've talked to that have read it. So hopefully you guys are going to enjoy it. So I thought rather than stand here and read from book 1, and anyone that ever had me for a teacher over the years knows that I love nothing better to do than to sing. Unfortunately, I'm like Leon Peters. I howl, I can't sing. So I brought in a ringer. I brought in Mr. Gavin Moore. Let's hear it for Gavin. Gavin is a man of true talent. Unlike myself, he can play that guitar, he can sing. But I said, Gavin, I'm going to let you steal that thunder up to a point. But then you have to back off and let me sing my little heart out, because that is always a dream of mine. So tonight, I'm going to teach you kids something. You can realize every dream you ever had, even if you're not that good at something. Just get yourself into a position where you can tell somebody else what you need to do, and they say, oh, all right. So Gavin is kind enough to do that, but he took some lyrics that I wrote, and he made them even better. And we're going to hear a song about one of my favorite people in this world, Leon Peters. Now, Leon's irresponsible, we all know that, but he didn't mean any harm, even though he nearly killed himself and a couple of kids. We'll never forgive Leon for that, but you'll hear Gavin's take at the end of the song is going to be what we really think about Leon. So, we have got some special guests here tonight. First, we have this crew who are going to play, because none of them are bullies, but they're going to play some bullies. Because Ploox was bullied, as we all know, but Nikki Neal saw through that to Ploox's heart and said, you're the guy I want to take on that trip. Nobody could believe it when they found they had left town together. Why would he take Ploox? But hopefully, as you guys read book 1, you realize why he chose Ploox. And when you read book 2, you're going to see it even clearer, because Ploox continues to develop. And his character grows, as all of you guys are doing. So we've got you, this group of bullies, and then we have the wonderful Tori DiDominicis. She's going to do a little poetry that sort of helps summarize book 1. She'll be followed by the inimitable, another town treasure, Spencer Van Dellen, who has been in stage plays. He's going to be doing a little poem and then singing a song that I thought I was going to sing, but Spencer said he'd do it. Another song I had to back off. You guys are lucky. I had 4 songs. Now I'm only singing part of one. What a disappointment. So we've got Spencer. After Spencer, Gavin is going to come in and sing that song about our old friend Leon. And I was trying this out on the grade 4s here, and we are pretty impressed with that chorus. Gavin's changed it a little, but if you listen close, you might want to sing along with him after you've heard it once. Do you mind, Gavin?
Not at all.
I didn't think so. And then after that, we are going to have Odin Orstein, and he's going to do some of the best reading I have heard lately. And anytime you feel like laughing, please do so. Unless it's someone you can tell is really serious about what they're doing, then don't. But Odin is really good, and then Odin is going to lead into my song that we call Bones in the Beans. And I hope somebody here, I actually posted that online. Is Allison Wigg here tonight? Allison, you won a free book because she's the only one that responded. I put a thing on Facebook that said, what was the significance of Bones in the Beans? And I thought, and a free book? I thought I'd be inundated. One person. So it's a good thing you came. Thanks for coming, and you get a free book, so. And then I posted another question, you didn't even answer it. So you only answer if there's something free, that's what I'm saying. And then we're going to have a little thing on book 2, and Gavin's going to sing one song from that, and then I'll read those couple of chapters. So, anybody want to repeat what I just said? Ian, would you like to repeat what I just said? Oh, weren't you listening, boy? Good. Okay, so, without further ado, should we start this evening? Because you guys probably have important places to be. But if you want to stick around here, it's going to be fun. So we will start off with the Ploox chant.
Ploox, Ploox, looks so dumb. Picks his nose and sucks his thumb. Hands are wet, snot is green. Dumbest kid you've ever seen.
The kids were mean. The kids were cruel. The kids forgot the golden rule. Do unto others is what they said. Why couldn't they get it through their head? Oh, how they loved to pick and poke. To each of them it was just a joke. Until he took off with Nicky Neal. Nobody cared how he'd feel. Smoky Station, Greyhound bus. Old man Pete, mad enough to cuss. Forget the pit, you don't belong here. Follow me now, or forever despair. My dad's gone missing down Mexico way, lost in some jungle. That's what they say. Bugs are his game, crawl, creep, and bite. Gotta go find him, make everything right. Be my partner, my trusty sidekick. If we take off now, we won't miss the light. Stepped out of the station, jumped on a bike, raced out of the town, time to hitchhike.
Oh no, over. This is called Ride Leon Ride. Two boys standing on a hot roadside. Hang on a sec. Two boys standing on a hot roadside. Stuck out their thumbs trying to hitch a ride. Nothing rolled a bird of pride, corn yellow car. The brakes squealed as she kicked up dust and guitar. Ride, Leon, ride, 100 miles at happy hour. Ride, Leon, ride, push that engine, feel that power. Now Leon tears like to talk, to drink and to sing. He drove that 53 Chevy like it had wings. Well, Kansas Kool-Aid stories and Lucky Strikes. Yeah, down the road they went, blazing up a trail of light.
in the woods. "Hey, you two, what you doing out there?" came a voice from the dark, caused quite a scare. "Don't shoot," Ploox croaked, hands to the sky. Nicky Neal wondered, was it his turn to die? "I'm coming in," came a simple warning. Cockeye McGuffey, or a chance to see morning. Then he was there, stick over his shoulder, corduroy coat, a bandana holder, dropped to the ground, took off a load, began to tell stories about life on the road. "Herb's my name, a hobo by trade. Listen to me now and you'll have it made. There's hot shots and hogs, jungle buzzards too. A whole new lingo just waiting for you." First thing in the morning, ate wheat, toast, and eggs. Ploox shoveled it in like Johnny Hollowlegs. "Hey, you gay cats, let's hit the grit. Frisk that drag, make a day of it." Hobo Herb and his magic sack walked the boys down an old train track. Railroad bulls and shooting stars, Ploox he hopped a red boxcar. Clickety-clack, train on the rails. Herb kicked back, spinning hobo tails. Life on the road, no turning round. Ride Johnny O, they're Texas bound. Boys, Herb said it's crazy out there. You gotta watch your step, you gotta beware. Clickety-clack, train on the rails. Herb leaned back, spinning hobo tails. Woo.
Alamo City is coming up soon, so get ready to jump and go find a room. Gonna miss you fellas, we rode together as friends, so I'll take this fond memory down right to the end. Watch out for the wino and beware of the tramp. The bone polisher will bite you, and boxcar fever will keep you damp. But Shorty's thrift and trade should be your first stop, and guard off the street before you get caught. Lenore Stibley in a new pair of slides. "She called the cops," Nicky Neal cried. Cozy Rest boarding house was their only choice, run by a greaser with a nasty nasal voice. "What can I do for you, gents?" He whined and he hissed. Called Brady and Harry, figured they'd never be missed. Camptown races, doodah too. Ploox freaked out, down the steps he flew. "Leaving a tad early," J.W. snapped. "Too bad for you, that is," and they were kidnapped.
Yeah,
Can you feel it, Gavin?
I can feel something.
I'll tell you one thing, I'm real glad I had Odin and Spencer and Tori do that, because that was awesome, don't you guys think? And if you haven't read book one yet, you're going to want to read it now, because you got to find out who J.W. Slezak, his nasty snarl is. You want to know who Leon Teeters is, flipping that yellow hawk on its roof. And you're going to want to take a little trip to the Armadillo Ranch camp, because that's where we're going. I can feel those chains dragging across those rocks. Can you feel those chains?
No, I feel those dang chains.
Yeah, bring it, bring it. Oh yeah. I gotta feel bluesy because I got me some real mean bosses. I got Burful B-Slap. I got Cletus Hensley. I got the big man himself, the master, Rockford J. Snodgrass. And not to be forgotten, I think I got Cletus Hensley. Oh yeah, they're a mean gang. They got shotguns, they got bullwhips, and they got the lightning rod. It's a nasty place to be, and I'm glad none of you kids are there. Because if you were, you'd wish you were anywhere else, because you'd be in a cell, and every morning you'd wake up and you'd have yourself a big old bowl of breakfast barf. It's green and it oozes, and when you throw it against the wall, call it sticks. Then you'd go out in those fields all day long and you'd have rattlesnakes. You might even get yourself thrown into the rat pit. But you know what I think, Gavin?
What's that, Dave?
I think it's time I sang a little song.
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, I could never, even though I wrote these words, I forget them because I get nervous up here, as you can probably tell. All right, Gavin, here we go. Right. J.W. Slezak and his evil spell send the boys packing to a prison cell. Armadillo Ranch camp, fat millionaire, 3 evil bosses, never did get there, Gavin.
Bones in the bean.
Oh yeah.
Planet was action. Bones in the bean. While digging and scratching. Bones in the bean. Bones in the beans, David.
Yeah, I see those bones. I broke a tooth. All right. We got those dogs. Trooper and Annie. Snarl, snap, and bark. One night late, they made a friend in the dark. Oh, there's lightning rods and bullwhips. There's rat tips and rattlers. Sweaty boys and rocks. Oh, there's no room for tattlers.
Bones in the bean.
Oh, yeah.
Planet was action. Bones in the beans.
Lots of digging and scratching.
Bones in the bean. Bones in the beans, baby.
Oh, yeah. That's an old ham bone. That's an old southern trick. You stick that ham bone in with those pinto beans. Gives it a real nice flavor, but you gotta be real careful. And when the cook's up at Snotty's place, we're putting those bones in the beans. They never thought Mickey Neal would be smart enough to save those beans and feed them to those nasty Rottweilers and make friends and engineer an escape. All right, Gavin, I'm ready to bring it on home. And I bet you're real
Bring it
ready
on
for
home.
that too. Oh, we got Cletus and Bertha, Sweeney too. Torture and torment, what's a poor kid to do? Ploox swiped the keys, set the boys running. Bossman woke up, oh, they came a-gunning.
Bones in the beans. Planet was action. Bones in the beans. Out of digging and everybody. Bones in the beans. Planet was action.
Bones in the beans, lots of digging and scratching.
Bones in the beans. Bones in the beans.
Right now, oh yeah, bones in the beans. My dream has been realized. I sang the blues with Gavin Moore on the stage. And hey, that was so much fun. Thank you, guys. I may have to go home now. What's reading after you sung Bones and the Beans? Okay, now, I guess, Gavin, you were going to lay a few little chords down while I was saying, well, I told this part, remember?
Right.
Do you remember that?
No, but we could do it.
Now this next song that Gavin's going to do is real special to me because I wrote it and I thought, you know, maybe Gavin will put some music to it, but he made it into this haunting melody.
Yeah, as only I can. You know how some people are the life of the party?
That's right.
I'm starting to embrace myself as the death of the party.
Yeah. And this, now we're into book 2. So I'll just tell you briefly, and I was just at a young authors conference, and the one complaint kids had about me was I gave away too much of the book. I just can't help it. I was talking nonstop, and by then they hardly even needed to read the book. So I don't want to tell you too much. But you've probably figured out the boys do escape. And they're moving down the road, and they meet a guy by the name of Paul Brooks. And he is a great older guy, and he's got an old school bus. and it's full of toys. You're going to have to read the book to find out why he's got a bus full of yo-yos, dolls, baseball gloves, baseball bats, every toy you can think of. And guess where he's going? He's going to Mexico. Yeah. Isn't that the boy's good fortune? And he says he'll take them along. But they have a very close shave before they get away from Armadillo Ranch Camp. And then they have a really close shave when they get to Brownsville, right on the border. And that's the part Gavin's going to sing about. And I want you to really listen to the lyrics, because they're going to tell you about a bank holdup. Because you can imagine, when those bosses figured out those kids were gone, they had to get out of there. They needed to get down into Mexico, away from the police. 1958, you could disappear in Mexico, and that's their goal. But not before they do one last nasty act of business. So listen to these lyrics carefully, because they're going to tell you what happens, and then I'm going to be doing some reading after that.
Sounds great. All right, here we go, Portertown Shootout. Two outlaws with a plan so tight, gonna take down a bank, gonna put up a fight. Sweeney the meanie and Burke will be slack. I bet down in Brownsville, just put your money in the sack. Watertown shootout, a rat-a-tat-tat, then they head to old Mexico, just like that. This is a sticker, once you do what I say, give me the money, they'll be held to pay. 6-gun blazing, a shotgun scatter. They took a girl hostage, her life didn't matter, no. In that Bordertown shootout, a rat-a-tat-tat, and then they had to old Mexico, just like that. Just like that. Yeah, those two were nasty, so cruel, bad, and mean. They'd do anything it took to get away clean. And across that border, well, that's what they thought, until Nicky Neal spotted them, and they got caught. Up in a Bordertown shootout, a rat-a-tat-tat, and put an end to those two goons, just like that. Well, I set up in Huntsville, throw away the key. Thank you so much for this, Dave.
Pardon?
Drop a piece.
Johnny D, should you just take this off here?
Set him free. So what do we got next, Dave?
Well, I'm going to do some reading.
Read away.
You know, that's always been the great thing about Claire's Home, is the talent we have in this town that I have seen go through my classroom over the years, Gavin Moore being one of them. Gavin, thank you so much for doing that. You made it. Thank you. Let's hear it for Gavin. I decided when we have the book 3 launch, we're going to have even more of these great talents from around town, because I think nothing makes me happier. Now, just a very small spoiler. If we do write a 4th Ploox book, and we're not sure, we do have one planned, and in that book, Berthel B. Slack breaks out of the pen, makes his way up to Waterville, and guess who he sees? He sees Plukowski. And I won't go into any further, but that book is called Slither White and the Last Dodo. But I get ahead of myself. Right now, I would like to just read a couple of little portions of book 2, and I won't spoil it. I'll just read a couple of parts of chapters instead of the whole thing. So I'm reading now, for anyone that has a book, from chapter 29 on page 95. And Ploox and Nikki Neal have left Paul Brooks, and he thinks he's sending him down to a guy that works in a museum who's going to give him some real good information on where Nikki Neal's dad might be. But do you think things ever work out as planned for these 2 boys? No. So they get to the bus, and there's a nun that's helping them out. She's a friend of Herb, or not Herb's, Paul's, and she's going to put them on the bus, and guess what? The bus is full. But in Mexico, especially Mexico of 1958, that was not to stop anybody. There's always the roof. So they put the boys up on the roof along with some chickens and furniture and a lot of bags, and they carved themselves out a spot. And they're riding along, and the bus comes to a sort of an abrupt halt. And it's big craters in the road. They're on a really rough road. The bus starts up again, and then it stops again. And I will pick up from that point. Hey, Nikki Neal, we're slowing down again. I think we're stopping. Feels like it. Let's take a peek. Probably more cattle in the way. With Ploox in the lead, the boys crawled over baggage and cargo to the front of the bus. They were stopping all right, but it wasn't because of cows. Instead, a small white horse sprawled in the middle of the trail. Beneath the horse, just barely visible, was the form of a man. Another horse and rider stood close by. The rider was waving frantically, urging them to pull over. The bus ground to a halt. The main door swung open, and the driver and his assistant stepped out into a cloud of red dust. Together, they approached the scene of the accident. Ploox and Nikki Neal peered around the large trunk, anxious to see what would happen next. When the driver and his aide were midway between the bus and the fallen horseman, a curious thing happened. The mounted rider let loose a whistle, and his horse reared up on its hind legs. At the same time, the horse on the ground bounded to its feet with its rider fixed in the saddle. Seemingly from nowhere, the 2 men drew pistols and brandished them at the driver and his companion. Get out, Ploox! Oh, is this a stick-up? Heck yeah, it is, and we better keep quiet. Those aren't cap guns they're waving around. The boys scrunched deeper into the baggage and continued to watch. The man who'd been on the ground began to yell at the driver, wagging his pistol in his direction. The other bandit galloped toward the bus, pointing his revolver at the windows and shouting, "Afuera! Todos afuera!" Well, what's he saying? I think he wants everyone off the bus. The driver and his assistant raised their hands above their heads and started marching back to the bus. The gunman followed close behind them. Just beyond the door, they stopped as ordered. Then the driver addressed the passengers, instructing them to come out. He appeared calm as he was speaking, but his expression told a different story. Now, if you have this book, hopefully you'll want to race to that point, because what happens? These are 2 nasty bandits, and one thing that we're very proud of that I would like to show you is, in this new book, we have illustrations. And I would like to point out these illustrations were done by my nephew, who did the cover. So we've got about 8 illustrations in the book, and this being one of them. Now, any of you folks that are old enough, and I know there aren't many, to remember the Big Little books, they were out 20s, 30s, 40s, and on those books there would be one page of text and an illustration. And that's what my brother, when we started writing this book, that was our dream. But we realized, 800 illustrations was not going to happen. So my nephew did do these for this, and he did it purposely. The illustrations are just kind of fun. They're not exactly what happens in the book. Because in the book, all these people are actually off the bus when they confront the robbers. And as you can see, Ploox and Nicky Neal are well armed on the roof, and you might guess that they are a big part of thwarting this robbery. So I go deeper into the book now. We're in the jungle, and they have met a kid by the name of Jorge Campo. And if you've ever been down to Mexico, you know that kids down there oftentimes have way more responsibility than you guys are expected to have. This kid's 12 years old, he has his own business card, and he runs a hotel and a restaurant with his mother and sisters. Unfortunately, his father passed away, and he's a junior businessman. And he is actually taking the boys deep into the jungle to meet a character that we call 1-0. And 1-0, he lives in a treehouse 100 feet off the jungle floor. And they're looking for him, and they're walking through this, what Jorge has told them is an ancient Mayan city that's kind of overgrown. And Ploox goes, "This ain't no city, I don't believe you." Well, Ploox is going to find out here the hard way. So I'll read from this chapter partway through. I'm on page 192, partway down. Ploox and Nicky Neal studied the landscape. They didn't notice anything that even hinted at being man-made. Well, Jorge paused for an answer. "I don't see anything," Nicky Neal responded, "except for all these weird trees and a bunch of odd little hills." His voice trailed off. "What about the hills?" Jorge smiled. "Well," Nicky Neal began, "there sure are a lot of them, and they just seem to pop up right out of the ground. I mean, they don't look natural somehow." "Okay, my friends," Jorge laughed apologetically, "I am sorry for the little game. What you see today, these mean it, as hills, were once temples and shrines built long ago by Mayan craftsmen. These trees were planted here intentionally to shade these streets, but now all is ruined, reclaimed by the hungry jungle. This Mayan world was swallowed whole, and today there are many people who deny that the Maya were once a mighty civilization." "Come on, Jorge. Them molehills ain't nothing but dirt mounds, and you know it. You're pulling our legs, and I'm gonna prove it." Ploox dropped Poncho's reins and headed straight to the nearest mound. "No, no, amigo, come back. Those places are not safe. There are snakes and scorpions and other things. Come back." But Ploox was set on proving his point. As he approached the base of his chosen hill, he stooped to pick up a broken tree limb. With tool in hand, he proceeded to dig into the base of one of Jorge's so-called temples. There he was, decked out in his prize-winning costume, hacking away at a dirt pile in what was reputed to be an ancient Mayan city. Jorge quit imploring Ploox to give it up, and instead leaned across his donkey's back and looked on as the wayward Mayan dug into history. Then, without warning, Ploox stopped jabbing into the dirt. "Holy cow, look at this, a brick or something." Jorge and Nicky Neal ran over to him. By the time they arrived, he had the object by both hands, wriggling it to get it free. After a violent jerk, the thing tore loose, and Ploox toppled backwards into a bed of ferns and strange broadleaf plants. "Look it! Look it! That's not a brick, Ploox, it's a stone block. And it looks like it was shaped or cut somehow. Come on, get up and let's have a closer look at it." Nicky Neal reached out to give his friend a hand, but as Ploox leaned toward him, he let out a terrible scream and sprang into the air. "Ploox, what happened? Are you okay?" "I'm in snake bit. Oh, I'm in snake bit. Oh, sweet mama, I'm gonna die for sure." He dropped the hunk of stone and began hopping about in tight little circles, clutching at the calf of his right leg. "Oh, lordy, 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 I'm dying. I'm too young to die. Ain't ready to die. I gotta see Margarita again." "Ploox!" Nicky Neal grabbed his friend by the shoulders, and Jorge caught him around the waist. "Calm down, man. Let's look at it first. Come on, calm down." Ploox was trembling like a leaf in a hurricane. Jorge coaxed him into a sitting down on the stone block. Nicky Neal pulled his friend's robe back, and Ploox pointed to the bite. "There!" He wagged a dirt-encrusted finger. "See it? See the blood? That's it." Jorge took out a bandana from his pocket and spat on it. Then he knelt down beside Ploox and began wiping the dirt and blood away from the wound. Nicky Neal peered over Jorge's shoulder, holding his breath until he knew what had taken a bite out of his friend's leg. "Ay, Madre Maria! Jorge shook his head gravely. This is no snake bite, Ploox. See? Only one hole. Nicky Neal drew closer to Ploox's leg and exhaled. Jorge was right. There was only a single hole where tiny drops of fresh blood continued to rise to the surface and bubble into droplets that trickled down across his calf. Well, what is it then? Principe. Jorge's face was ashen. He struggled to bring the words to his tongue. This is the mark of La Espina Negra. Espina what? Nicky Neal demanded. Sorry, I mean black spine. This is the work of the black spine. Come, I show you. Jorge stepped back to the spot where Ploox had fallen. Ever so gently, he began to part the broad leaves of the odd-looking plant nestled among the stand of ferns. Look, you see the spine? What Jorge revealed was a slender, purplish stem. It hardly appeared strong enough to support the oversized leaves that fanned out 18 inches or more at the top of the stem. Look closely, he pointed. Here. Nicky Neal thought it looked pretty innocent until he noticed the razor-thin, needle-like spine sticking out of the stalk at helter-skelter angles, some of them up to 4 inches long. He edged in closer. Are they fragile? I mean, they look too delicate to pierce skin. See, they do seem delicado. But the truth is, you can spear fish with them. So what's the problem then? Ploox got poked, but he'll get over it, right? Nicky Neal looked at Jorge, but he was pacing nervously, rubbing his forehead with the palm of his hand. He's more than a poke, Nick. The problem with the spine is that it shoots off the plant when she is disturbed. These espinas, they become like little spears or arrows, you know? Jorge's pacing became more frantic. I get it. The spines are the plant's defense against whatever threatens it. So let's just pull the little devil out of Ploox's leg and get on with our journey. Nick, show me the spine in his leg. Yeah, sure. Nicky Neal knelt beside Ploox and carefully lifted his friend's leg onto his knee. Here's the hole. Hey, there's no spine. There's nothing sticking out. Ploox just got poked. That's all. He's more than a poke, amigo. Jorge's face wrinkled up like an old man's. Step over here, Nick. Nicky Neal gently lowered Ploox's leg and followed after Jorge. At a safe distance, Jorge began to whisper dramatically. Nick, the espina, she's burrowing into his leg. Even now, she's working her way to the bone. When she reaches the bone, she makes some serious pain. But that's not the end to it. Oh my gosh, Jorge, what else can happen? Pues, la espina strikes the bone and then she keeps pushing. Eventually, the infection sets in. If we don't keep that little dagger out, well, we got serious problem. How serious? Jorge looked at Nicky Neal, then Ploox. As bad as it can get. Oh, mama. Ploox, did you hear us? Yeah, the thing's in my leg, not my ear. What are we gonna do? We have two choices, Jorge replied. He did not resume his pacing. First choice, we turn back now and ride hard for Palenque. 3, the doctor there can remove La Espina. What's choice 2? We move on quickly, muy rapido, and we find 1-0. You think he can help? I don't know, my prince. I really don't know, but he's our closest hope. Ploox, this isn't our call, you know. You have to make the decision. Whatever you choose is what we'll do, and we'll do it in a hurry. See, Niki's right. It's your call, Ploox. Ploox stared at his leg for a minute, then shifted his gaze to the surrounding scenery. With some effort, he rose to his feet, shifting as much weight as possible onto his left leg. His face was white as ash. Well, I didn't come all this way to back out just because I got jabbed by a little old plant. We're close, Nicky Neal. I can feel it. I say we go on. If this 1-0 guy's real, then I expect he can do something. Ploox, I didn't bring you along this trip to get you hurt, or worse. Another day or two won't make any difference. Let's go back to town. I'm ready. Ploox shifted more of his weight back onto his right leg and straightened up. See? I can stand on it. I'm tougher than that overgrown goat head any day. I mean it, Nicky Neal. I want to go on. Ploox, I made my choice. Besides, I got a feeling everything's going to be okay, honest. While Nicky Neal stared at him, stumbling for words, Ploox limped towards Poncho. I'm game, he called over his shoulder, but I'm riding my pony. He scooped up the reins and launched himself into the saddle. Come on, boys. 1-0 ain't going to find us here. Nicky Neal stared at him, astonished. The guy had guts. Boy, did he have guts. So hopefully you're going to want to read on and find out how this all transpires and how they get to where they are. And I don't know if anybody has any questions or anything else to add to the evening. You got a question? What inspired us to make these books? I had an idea for this Ploox character for a long time, and my brother is Nicky Neal. When I started it, he wasn't writing it with me, and then he thought it looked like fun, so he got involved, thank goodness, because he's an amazing writer. And he was like this Nicky Neal character. He could have taken off at 12 years old and gone to Mexico. I, on the other hand, was more like Ploox. I was a coward, and my brother always made me do things that scared me. So this book was kind of written from that point of view of always being pushed, and that's where Ploox is, and that Ploox is becoming a braver guy, and he's able to do more things like spring the boys from the Armadillo Ranch camp. That's a good question. Thanks. Laura.
How many books are there in this series?
3 in this, and we're working on finishing book 3. So hopefully it'll probably be about the same length of time, and I hope you guys want to read it to find out how Ploox does become a king and what happens when he does.
3 parts to this book.
3 parts, and this is the second.
And there's a chance there might be a 4th part.
Well, it'll be the same characters, but a different story. It won't be this finding Nicky Neal's dad coming home alive. All right. Oh,
Mr. A, we got one here.
I was having a small discussion with my comrades, and we were wondering, is this book larger in area than the other one?
you know what? It's a different cover. We were.
But we do like the cover. It's more, it's
Yeah.
not so glossy.
They call this matte.
Oh, no, it's quite nice.
And it's buttery in feel.
Yes.
But, you know, it's thicker.
Oh, it is.
It's the paper they used is thicker, and it's more pages.
Well, it's a fine product.
Do you like it?
I do.
Thank you very much, Sparky, because if you didn't, I'm sending them straight back to the publisher. Hopefully everybody does, and I'm glad you're here. Oh,
You were talking about the rock spine. Is that based off of an actual plant or just something you cooked up in your head?
no, that's an actual plant. In fact, my brother was in Mexico, and his wife took the spine in her leg, and they had to go to a hospital. Many of the things in this book are things that really happened that we kind of shaped and molded. So it is a real thing, and it works its way to the bone, and when it hits the bone, you die, or you have a possibility of dying. So it's really important Ploox gets this spine out of his leg, and that's where 1-0 comes in. You guys are going to really like him. Yes? On the cover are the voladores, and the voladores are the flyers. And Ploox and Nicky Neal and Paul Brooks are on their way to see the flyers, and as you know in our books, strange things happen to these boys. And this particular flyer is our friend Ploox, and Nicky Neal's in there too. They end up having to fly. Not necessarily, and this pole is 100 feet higher, like over 30 meters tall, like a grain elevator, and they fall off backwards and spin around. You'll have to read the book to find out. But the boys end up flying, and that's why we wanted that on the cover. Yes, Laura?
When did you start writing Ploox? Like what year did you start writing Ploox?
I hate to tell you this, but you weren't even born. We started writing that book in 1981, and here we are publishing it in 2013. Aren't we quick? That's called persistence. I was talking to my brother, and please don't think this is all me, because when we say brothers aren't Finnegan, there are 2 of us, and my brother is really the master imagination behind this whole thing. And he wishes he was here tonight, and hopefully with Bruce's, and I haven't mentioned Mr. Bruce Lindquist, the king of the prom. Let's hear it for Bruce. That was a great evening on Friday night. I was a little nervous about having a book launch so close to that great performance. But Bruce is a master filmmaker and editor, and my nephew does the same thing, so he's going to be really proud when he sees this. Hopefully this is going to be on YouTube. Am I correct, Bruce? Yeah. So, I don't know where I was going with that, is the question. It was just us writing it for that long. 1981 till 2013. So I hope you really enjoy it. Because I'm making about 0.02 cents per copy. 31 years. Okay, it is. Thank you once again. Oh, who do we have there? Oh, it's Mrs. Elm. Pleased to see you. Margarita, and I'm sure you remember Margarita. is a beautiful sister of Jorge Campo, and when they check into the Hotel Maya in Palenque, Ploox notices Margarita and he is just spellbound. Well, believe it or not, Margarita is like Nicky Neal. She sees through to Ploox's heart and she falls for Ploox. So in this book, Ploox has his first deep love. And hopefully you girls will enjoy that part. We thought it was important we brought some girls into this story. And Nicky Neal even finds himself a little sweetie by the name of Rosa. And they do some dancing. We have an illustration, and that is the costume party where Ploox ends up with his costume that you'll find out about. So that's who Margarita is. So thank you for bringing that up. Maybe a few more girls will decide they need to read this story. That it. Thank you very much. And once again, thank you for coming out. And anyone that wasn't here tonight, these books are going to be at PharmaSafe again. They have been kind enough to sell books. And I think I'm going to be at the library in a couple of weeks for, if you know anyone that missed this and wants to come out, the public library. And the book will be available eventually as an ebook too, I think, but that's a ways down the road. Yes? Yes, but when you buy them in chapters, they cost a little bit more. This is the place to buy them at PharmaSafe. But I am going to be down at Chapters in Lethbridge on Saturday if you know anyone down there that would like to get one. I will be down there. Thanks, Laura.
Wow. Dave, I could just stay here all night and listen to you read. One of my favorite parts about listening to you read is that's a mental impression right here, so when I'm reading silently, you are Ploox, you are every one of those characters in my head, and I love it. It's a treat to read, and I'm so glad that you're here giving us the joy of book 2.
Thanks to Gavin, we may eventually have an audio.
Yeah, I think you need to do it. I think you need to do it. Okay, so if you still need to buy a copy of the book, the table closest to our school office will be selling. If you were able to pre-order, that table is handing out books next to the library door there. And then Mr. Armstrong, Dave's gonna pull up a table into this area and you can bring your books forward and he will sign them for you. Thanks so much to everybody for coming. We have refreshments at the kitchen. We have a card for, don't leave on me yet. We have a card for students of Mr. Armstrong to sign, so it doesn't just have to be people that are young, it's people that have been one of his students. So if you want to put a little comment on the cards, we also have another speech bubble and thought bubble sort of thing if you want to pass on what you liked about Ploox. I am so happy that everybody showed up, and once again, thanks to Dave. Let's give him another, we'll give him a round of applause.
I can't believe I also need to thank the wonderful Gwen Orstein for doing all the work here, and Carmel Steele, who is unbelievable in the publicity department. She's already had me on TV and in the Lethbridge Herald phone today, and that all happens thanks to Carmel. She did that with the last book as well, and she won't let me thank her enough, but let's hear it for Gwen and Carmel. And as you can only imagine, being married to me all these years and listening to my brother and I talk about this ridiculous book for 31 years, Jamie is truly a saint. And my kids have had to put up with it too, and one of Quade's questions was, Dad, you're not singing, are you? I said, don't you want to make a bet? So give him your sympathy when you see him, please. And thank you to my lovely wife for sticking with me all these years through thick and thin. You're really going to like it when they make that movie.
Once again, thanks to everybody for coming. Grab a drink, a treat, and visit, and stick around, buy a book, get it signed. Thanks so much for coming.